Hey guys, it's Whiskey River, and welcome back to Path of Titans. Last week on Path of Titans, I played on the Regal Rain Realism server, and also on Apex Killers. On Regal Rain, we raised some Uties in a Utie nest, and played some Miragaya, and of course played the SuKo. And then on Apex Killers, we did some mob boss action, and I did an Argent Bounty, which was a lot of fun. So I'll bring you some clips and highlights from those experiences, and I hope you enjoy. Regal Rain Realism is a realism server I highly recommend. It's run by ex-Arizoa staff, and the rules there are very similar to Arizoa rules with a little bit of a twist. There's actually a lot of improvements. A lot of the stuff that I wished Arizoa would do with their rules, they did that on Regal Rain. So I'm really enjoying that server. I encourage you to come check it out. Bring your friends and come play. The profiles there are really unique. They're common sense. They just make sense. There's a lot of great stuff about certain tiers that have to hold territory and have to be aggressive towards other carnivores, and there's certain herbivores that have aggressive tags that give you some freedom to play and have fun on herbivores and be aggressive. It is a lot like Arizoa with a twist, so if you're used to Arizoa rules, I think you'll fit right in with Regal Rain Realism, and I recommend that you check it out. Don't get dissuaded by the low population if you see it, because it's kind of like once people join, it's like a floodgate opens up, and one second there'll be 10 people on there, and a couple minutes later there's 50. So I think we got it up to like 80 people last week, and it is fun. So if I know Dynasty's closed down for a few days, so maybe it's a good time to come check the server out. I think you'll enjoy it. I really do. And the rules are they're organized really well, and they just make sense. There's not a lot of nuance and crazy contradictions in there like I've been finding on some of the other servers. So the first clip here is we nested in as Uties, and it was a really fun nest. That was what the cover image, the thumbnail that I had on is from. It's from our little Utie nest that we did, and it was a great time. We had a lot of little baby Uties in there. We raised them up and formed a little family clan, and we went out and hunted this Rex as our first hunt as a newly formed adult clan after being raised by the parents in that nest. So that was a lot of fun. We also grew some Dasp and had an encounter with this Aloe. It's a pretty dangerous encounter. The Aloe's very strong. They call it a Sorrel-Faganax on Regal Rain, but the Dasp are strong too. So it was a really good fight. The Aloe outweighs the Dasp and actually is just as fast as it. And it does bleed, so it's extremely dangerous. I was about to bleed out here, so I really had to depend on my teammate Rampage to finish this one off for me. He still got quite a bit of health, and luckily he was able to chase him off. And look at my health. I mean, thank God Rampage was there. Teamwork makes the dream work. And he finally got him right there. So I didn't know if I was going to survive that one. My health bar was totally gone, so I thought I might bleed out. Luckily Rampage got him before I did, and I survived. So after that, went and helped Honey raise her Dasp. We plan on playing Dasp from time to time here, so we wanted to get her Dasp raised up, and she started getting hunted by this Hats out in Rockfall. So I had to protect her and help her get that raised up to an adult. The Hats has a pretty good shot at killing her here if it's good, but luckily we have these trees and there's a lot of rocks and stuff in the bushes, so it's going to be hard for the Hats to maneuver around. And we do a lot of damage. Even Honey can do quite a bit of damage as an adolescent against the Hats. So if we work together, should be able to drive this thing off or kill it. I think she might have been a little too big for him to actually clamp and pick up, so we got lucky there. Now he went off and sat down to get stamina, so I took that opportunity to switch over to the fracture bite to see if I could fracture him and prevent him from flying away so we could finish him off. Honey also had the fracture bite on, so I was telling her to try to get a fracture on him. If we get 100% fracture, I'm not sure that it can fly away if it's on the ground. It'll certainly make it harder for him too. So that did the trick. Finally was able to finish him off. And a little bit later, we went to Green Valley, and I was over here getting stamina from running across that river, and Honey started getting attacked by a couple of picnos. Of course, she's still an adolescent at this point, so it's like, she's like, help, help. And I did everything I could to get there in time to try to help her, but she was very close to death, and there's two of them, so I was really worried. I got lucky that they decided to focus on me and not continue going after her, because I think she's 1 or 2 shots away from death. They didn't want to go in the water, so they might have been low on stam. And then he killed his buddy right there, so we got the victory. Honey survives again. Grew a Miragaya. Wanted to try that one out. I know I always hate fighting Miragaya against them. They do all kinds of toxin and poison, and they can spit on you and make you do less damage, and they're always really annoying to fight, so I wanted to try one out. They have an aggressive nature, aggressive profile, so you can actually drive carnivores out of the territory, which is kind of cool. And we were drinking out of this lake here, and the Spino did not want us drinking out of his lake, so we had a little fight with him. You can spit on your opponent and reduce their damage by about 15%, and that stacks only twice. But once you do, it really helps. And then we've been using the toxic spines, and what that does is it puts it's kind of like a damage over time type debuff, and what it really does is it just reduces their health bar from the other end of the health bar. So instead of taking it off the right side, it just takes some health off the left side, and then over time it'll come back, but it takes a long time. So it's effectively just reducing the amount of health that they have, and then when you damage them enough, it'll kill them, and it just makes it to where you just don't have to do as much damage to get the kill. They also have paralysis, and that's what you see, that like sparkly effect that you see around the Spino there. You see he's pausing from time to time when he's paralyzed. So if you can hit him enough, or get him to hit you enough, that's how the paralysis stacks up. Is every time the enemy hits you, they get a little bit more paralysis build up, and when it builds up to 100%, they'll freeze in place. When that happens, you can use Detonate, which is the second ability that I have on my tail. And when you use Detonate, it'll transform all of the negative effects that they have on them to raw damage. So instead of having the toxin build up, it just removes all the toxin and the paralysis and everything, but it turns that into raw damage. And that's how you can get a kill pretty quickly on the Miragaya. But they're very, very difficult and a pain to fight. They've got a really unique skill set, so they can be quite fun to play. They're a mid-tier on this server, and you can have 4 of them in a pack. And like I said, they are aggressive. Also played SuKo, of course, one of my favorites. And my friend Lawson and I hopped on these and hunted down this Tyranno Titan. We're using drench scales and hook snap, or I'm using hook snap. I think he's got the regular bite on, but definitely both using drench scales, and that increases your combat weight. So you're not actually outweighed all that much by a Tyranno Titan when you're using drench scales. And the hook snap gives me 50% more damage on every bite as long as I have those stacks, which I have 19 right now. So I've got 19 bites to hit him with extra 50% damage on. And then we are both using the bleed bite, the shark bite, and then the backhand. He's in a good spot, but if we're careful, what I'm trying to do is run in. I got kind of low health there at the beginning, hit me with a heavy bite, so I'm just trying to bait out his heavy bites so that Lawson can get in and get a quick bite on his face like that. There you go, bait the heavy bite, and he can get in and get some damage on him. He finally gets impatient, decides to go and chase Lawson, and that gives us the opening we need to finish him off. And of course, SuKo being semi-aquatic, now we've got him right where we want him. This is a little bit of mob boss action we did. This was kind of a funny one because we were actually hunting a trike, and this is on Apex Killers, and this cart comes over, and he's like standing literally in the fight, like in the radius of the fight. He's getting in our way. You know, when you're on Denamis and on Kilobators and stuff, you need to run in and out, especially against a trike. You're going to be doing a lot of running and dodging. And this dude was just standing there, and I really don't understand when players do that. They get way too close to the fight, and they're basically interfering in the fight. Even if you're not attacking or anything like that, like you need to really make like 10, 15 body lengths away is where you should be, and watch the action from afar. Because if you're standing there, you basically act as a barricade, and it's not helping out anybody in the fight, and you really have no business being involved in it. So we asked him to move nicely, and he wouldn't move, so we ended up just leaving the fight of the trike and went and attacked him instead, and we went ahead and forced him to move by killing him. So we moved him out to Ripple Beach, which was a good place for him at that time. I just ask that people just be courteous, you know. I mean, if you see a fight going on, don't stick your nose in it. Don't get right in the middle of it. It just seems like common sense to me and common courtesy. But like I said, I did an Argent Bounty on Apex Killers, and it was pretty fun. I don't play Argent a whole lot, but I do like to kill and hunt Argents on my Giga, so I thought I'd try my hand at the Argent. And I placed a bounty. It was a 1,000,000 mark bounty, and I had all these Gigas coming to try to fight me. So this is just one little clip. There was a lot of actually really good fights. A couple of my friends, Lucifer's Grace and Yoga Ninja, both are like really good Giga players. I don't know how they do it, really. They can get in and out without me being able to hit them so much, and they both got my health down to like under half, and I had to go up onto this rock where they couldn't get to me to get my health back. I was gonna post some of those clips, but they were really long fights, and I really just didn't have the room to put them in this video. But I probably will make another video on Argents later, and I'll include some of those fights for you guys. The tail is really the deadliest thing on the Argent. People like to try to use that double stomp a lot, but really, if you're fighting a good Giga, all that's going to do is leave you open to attack because it's very easy to predict and dodge. So you really should be using your tail as much as possible on the Argent. That's really your damage dealer, and if you can hit them with your tail or the rear stomp, stomps are good too, stomps and tail, but the tail is underutilized by a lot of Argent players for some reason. And that's really your main damage dealer. So if you can't hit him with a stomp, you definitely want to hit him with a tail. Your headbutt does okay, but not nearly as much as the tail. So try to keep him behind you and try to focus on the tail attacks as much as you can. That's what I've seen. That's what seems to be working for me the best on the Argent. So try that out if you ever play Argent. It should work for you too. And of course, I am a newer Argent player, so if you Argent mains out there have any tips for me, I definitely welcome those as well. Leave them in the comments below and I will read them and respond to them. But that was my experience last week in Path of Titans, on the Regal Reign Realism server, and on Apex Killers. Of course, I do hope you enjoyed this episode of last week in Path of Titans. Stay tuned next week for episode 4. And as always, guys, I hope to see you out there in Gondola. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.